Hey guys, welcome back to About Andy, where I'm going to be changing things up a little bit today. I'm going to be drawing my life. I know on YouTube this is, a little bit vintage, but I haven't had a chance to do it yet, and I really wanted the chance to give it a go. So I was born 32 years ago, all the way back in 1985. I was born to quite a small family. There's my mum. There's my dad, and then there's my little brother Chris. So aside from one small fact, from what I understand, I was a pretty normal child. Unfortunately, that small fact was the fact that I used to collect potatoes. Apparently my parents used to find them everywhere, down the side of my bed, in the washing machine. I used to just carry them around. It was strange. So at about 7 years old, after getting kicked out of the boys' brigade, my mum decided to invest me into the local scout group. I was a bit nervous joining the scouts, but luckily my mum decided to join along with me. I was asked what I wanted my mother to be called. It was supposed to be a local woodland animal. However, my favourite animal at the time was the elephant. So mum wasn't obviously happy with that. So we decided to go for my next favourite animal, which was a fox, which is a name I think she enjoyed a little bit more because she kept it for years. So for a while we were really happy. I never really wanted for anything or needed anything that I didn't have. But at about 10 years old, my dad left. So it's hard to describe the impact something like that will have on a 10-11-year-old. But needless to say, it left the whole family very sad. My mum was particularly sad. However, after a few years, through scouting, she met my stepdad, Graham. Now, as I was approaching my teenage years, I really didn't take it that well, that someone else was coming into what I considered my house and taking over the role of dad. And my kind of teenage angst was made even worse by the fact that a soon time later, they actually had a little boy of their own. His name's Alex, my little brother. And again, as a teenager, I ended up with a serious case of middle child syndrome. I wasn't the youngest anymore, so this made me angry. I don't know why. So fortunately, all of that turned out well. I couldn't imagine my life now without Graham or Alex. So Graham, if you're watching this, thank you for putting a smile back on my mum's face. So not long before Alex was born, I was on my way to secondary school. So secondary school was a bit mixed for me. In the first few years, I was a bit of a geek. I was short, slightly rounded, with messy hair. But the one good thing about this is I actually had quite good grades. In year 9, I remember I had an argument with my very small group of friends at the time, and I was charging through the halls, and I bumped into Daniel. So I used to speak to Daniel outside of history about computer games, and he suggested that there was a disco that night at school, and why didn't we come with them? Now it's funny how that moment changed my life. That year I even got a Valentine's Day card from one of the more popular girls in the school. I didn't even care if she was taking the mickey or not. It was my first Valentine's Day, and I kept it for a long time. So unfortunately, the offshoot of all of this is that the happier I got, the worse my grades got. I actually ended up getting GCSE grades that spelt fudge. So I didn't really know what to do with myself at this point. I didn't realise beforehand that with poor GCSE grades and poor education, really, that you'd end up with no job. So I did the typical thing that a person with no qualifications does, and I went into banking. And yes, it is as boring as it sounds. I spent 10 years sitting behind a little desk with my little tie on, saying, welcome to the bank, and got paid peanuts. I hated it. It's a Believe it or not, I actually suffered that for more than 10 years. It was actually closer to 15. So in 2014, I decided to leave my job within banking and take the leap over to something different, which was retail. Now, here I really found my element. I absolutely loved what I was doing. I was working within a place where people actually wanted to be, as opposed to had to be, and this made me very happy. I worked hard. I was in work early every day. Everyone was saying how great I was, and within my first 8 months, I got my first promotion. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit here, because I firmly believe that this person deserves their own section. It was approximately 9-ish years ago. I was getting a bit bored of doing the usual thing. I was just going to pubs, coming home, and not really doing much with my life at the time. So I decided to get back into scouting. I joined a local scout group who happened to be the scout group that my stepdad ran. But after a little while, I decided to spread out on my own and join a different scout group. It was in this scout group that I met Sam. So I'm sure she won't mind me mentioning that at the beginning I actually found her pretty annoying. I used to have to boss her around because she was 18 and really didn't listen to anybody. But after a while, she began to grow on me. And then she grew a little bit more. I know she looks like an evil pumpkin there. But after a while, we fell in love. And, things moved on. She moved in with me. And after 7 years, I proposed. And thankfully, despite a shocking proposal, she said yes. This was just after I got my first promotion at work, so I was probably the happiest that I've ever been. So unfortunately, not everything goes your way in life. I was already not the smallest person on the planet. I had a bit of a belly on me at the time. But unfortunately, due to many reasons, including money troubles and some personal issues, I started putting on a bit more weight. And then I got sadder. The bigger I got, the sadder I got. And it got to the point where I was so sad and so big that I didn't really want to do anything. My hair got messy. I stopped shaving, so my beard grew out. It looked terrible. I could no longer look myself in the mirror. I couldn't really do any activities. I couldn't do sports. I didn't like socialising. All of my friends I stopped getting contact with. They slowly started to drop away. I even had to give up one of my favourite things in the world, which was scouting. And I was sad. I was very sad. I say was. This is still very much going on. And the only real comfort I take, apart from Sam, who's still about, are computer games. Because it gives me the opportunity to step out of who I am and become something else, which made me happy. So I had this £2,000 computer that I really wasn't doing anything with. That computer included software like Final Cut, I had Photoshop and Illustrator, and I really didn't know much about these, so I decided to teach myself whilst I had nothing better to do. And that actually resulted in me wanting to upload my achievements that I'd been doing to YouTube. So this is how I ended up creating my channel. I've got Snapchat and Instagram, it's about Andy. And for the kind of 3 hours a day that I get to make these videos, I don't have to think about anything else. So that's where I am now. Please don't forget to leave a like, and maybe even subscribe to my channel. Leave a comment down below if you want to. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.